Hey everyone, and welcome back to another overdue video, which is the should you pull for Hellagur and Shining banner. Apologies that this video is coming so late. In fact, the banner ends in just a few days, but real life kind of caught up, and so I wasn't really able to do this video earlier. But we are here, so let's just jump right in. So I guess we can start on the left with 5-star Sniper Platinum. As mentioned, she is a member of the Sniper class, and specifically, she belongs to the Sniper archetype. The anti-aerial archetype. I literally released a video on the Sniper class and its archetypes today, so do feel free to check that out for more information. But needless to say, she falls into the same categories as the likes of Jessica and Meteor here, where she'll attack aerial enemies first. Her main gimmick is her second skill, which when fully charged up will give her another row right here in front of her of attack range. So she'll get a 3x5 row, similar to like an AoE sniper. And that's obviously a really good thing, right? Like, range is pretty much always going to be valuable, and while there are quite a decent amount of characters that might be able to increase their range, most of them cannot do it permanently, like through their skills. Platinum definitely has an interesting gimmick there. Her second thing is her ramp up. So the longer the time it is between her two attacks, the more damage her attacks will do. So if she attacks and then waits a few seconds, that next attack will deal more damage. If you watched that previous video, you'll know that the anti-aerial archetype is pretty much the only archetype out of the Sniper class that I would say is really mandatory. And so if you don't have any good anti-aerial snipers, Platinum is definitely worth considering. And you might consider, rolling specifically just for her. But that pretty much concludes my thoughts on Platinum. Firewatch is the 5-star unit from this banner that you can pick up from the store for 45 certificates or distinctions, sorry. And she falls into the wide range archetype, so kind of like Ambril. And her main gimmick, well, she actually kind of has two. Her first skill turns her invisible, so she won't be targeted by ranged enemies. I kind of think of this as sort of like a superior version of Jessica's second skill, whereas Jessica's second skill gives her a % dodge chance to dodge all attacks. This just sort of flat out prevents her from being targeted by ranged enemies, which is pretty good. It even comes with a modest attack buff, which 40% for a character like this which has higher attack damage because of her archetype is pretty legit. Her second skill is a flat-out nuke, and it becomes particularly more powerful as you invest mastery points into it, because then the bombs increase to, I believe, 3. And the bombs deal AoE damage, so they'll drop randomly near enemies, and they'll do AoE damage. And this skill does potentially give Firewatch some incredible DPS. If there are large groups of enemies clumped up to each other and she just drops 2 or 3 bombs on them, she can potentially deal a devastating amount of DPS in a short period of time, hence the nuker tag that you see down here. If you watch that video, you'll know that I don't really consider this archetype to be necessary, and so for that reason, unless you're kind of specifically rolling for waifu reasons or whatever, Firewatch isn't something that I really recommend that you pull specifically for. Worth considering and leveling up if you do pull her, but from a gameplay perspective, I wouldn't necessarily pull just for Firewatch. And the same thing is pretty much going to be said about Mare. So she falls into the supporter class, and she falls into the summoner archetype. Basically, she's able to summon robots in order to aid on the battlefield. These robots do cost DP and do take up deployment limits. So if you can only use 6 units and you deploy Mare and then 2 robots, you're only left with 3 units left. Her skills for the skills for this archetype will manipulate those robots or their summoned pets or whatever in order to do some kind of effect. And in the case, and because of that, they also have talents that will usually affect like their robots as well. And those talents will improve over being promoted. For that reason, supporters like 5-star Mayor and her 6-star counterpart, Magellan, something like that, do tend to be very late game oriented. Like their power doesn't really come and shine through until they reach Elite 2. That's where they really start to kick off. They do have some like interesting niche uses in terms of the fact that they can kind of like solo certain maps. Not that you'll ever really need to do that, but it is like a kind of fun little cheese strat that you can pull off. But for that reason, like because of like the heavy investment that you need in order to get to Elite 2, in order to really like make them shine, I kind of don't recommend that rookies like heavy pull for Mayor. If you do happen to just like accidentally get them, I would probably hold off on them early on also and wait until you get like a decent supply of resources and really flesh out the core of your team. And then after that, you can then potentially come back to Mayor and invest hard on them. So that's going to cover our 5-star units by the looks of it. And so next we're going to talk about 6-star Shining here. She's a unit that you could have potentially gotten from your newbie banner or the very beginning banner. And she is a healer, specifically a single target healer with a focus on defense increase. So her first skill increases her attack and attack speed, and that's obviously very good. That just means more powerful heals and more frequent heals, which can aid in keeping you alive. Pretty good stuff for a healer since that's their primary goal. Her second skill gives you a shield based on a small percentage of her attack and increases the target's defense. This is also really good. Obviously, a damage absorbing shield is very useful. The fact that it increases defense means that this shield is going to be particularly more effective at dealing with physical damage, just because you'll be taking less physical damage, but it does block arts damage as well. Her final skill is Creed, which increases her attack and then increases all of the defense of allies by 60%. And her talent also increases the defense of allies by plus 60 once she is brought to E2 and she gets plus 10 attack speed, which is like all good. That just means more frequent heals. And obviously the defense is also very useful. Just having like plus 60 defense for all allies in range can really make your units like that much more tanky, and physical damage is pretty much what you're going to be dealing with throughout the bulk of Arcanites, and so like taking less physical damage is obviously good. That said, there are some like weaknesses to Shining, mainly that like defense increases aren't something that you're aren't something that are really necessary. They are certainly useful for certain like vanguards can become kind of like tanky when you use these skills on them, and your guards can also kind of become like decently tanky if they get access to like all of Shining's defense buffs. But for the most part, I wouldn't say that those are like really necessary. Just because you have defenders who already have high defense like by nature, and there are certainly like other characters even within like the defensive vanguards and definitely within defenders that usually have percentage based defense like skills, and so as a result Shining's bonuses are definitely nice, but you're never gonna really like while playing through the game never really came into like many scenarios where I felt like I was getting like overly blasted by physical damage, where her defenses would be would really make a difference. Unfortunately, like while her effects are good, I don't really think they're like like really that amazing. She kind of makes stages that are already like relatively doable, like cakewalks, and she won't really change like she won't really make difficult like stages that much easier. Just because like the only time you really will get like heavy physical damage will probably be through like some combination of contingency contracts where you're like taking defense downs and like massive increases to like enemy defenses and enemy offenses, and in those cases her defense buffs aren't really going to like be able to completely mitigate that. So throughout the general story, unfortunately, like just defense increases kind of pale in usefulness to res increases, and so while Shining's like not a bad healer to have, and if you get her, definitely like invest in her. She's a pretty solid single target healer. But I do think that there are like other lower star, like 5-star single target healers that kind of bring about more general and more useful utility than Shining. And so for that reason, I kind of don't really recommend pulling for Shining. Like I said before, if you do grab Shining, definitely worth the investment in the long term. So lastly, we have a 6-star Heliger here, and he's sort of a and he's kind of like in his own archetype. He kind of like branches off from the 1v1 sort of like duelist archetype that you see individuals like Melantha belong to, and like 6-star Scotty, for example, would belong to that as well. Hellagur kind of differs from that area. He does have really good HP. He has some pretty solid attack. He has his main things are that his talents. He can't actually no, sorry, that's his trait. He can't actually be healed by other units, but whenever he attacks, he recovers 70 HP. This actually starts off weaker. It starts off, I believe, at 30 and then goes to 50 and then 70 once he gets to E2. He also has his talent, which increases attack speed based on his health lost, plus 100 at below 30% HP. That is like really good because that just means he starts whacking incredibly quickly once he gets his HP lower, which helps him sustain. And so that's actually kind of his main gimmick, is him sort of 1v1ing units, getting kind of like low at first, like it'll look like he starts losing, and then as he's like his HP starts going down, he slowly becomes more unkillable. Ingenious strategy is just there to help him with recovering HP whenever he's not attacking, and also that could be very useful against like if an enemy caster happens to walk into his range. If an enemy caster walks into a range where they can attack him but he can't attack them, ingenious strategist will kind of help you out a bit with that, because that can be a problem if you're left at kind of low HP and then a caster just comes in and nukes him. Do keep in mind that while he has this trait that says he can't be healed by other units, certain abilities such as Perfumer's Lavender talent, which restores the HP of all allies by 3%, so like these type of global passive heals do bypass Hellager's restriction on not being able to be healed and will work on him, and so that's kind of like a neat and good thing to know. Aside from that, he's mainly taken for his second skill. It's a like powerful attack damage increase, but also comes with a 75% physical dodge, and that kind of just lets him 1v1 any physical damage dealer, any melee damage dealer. Just a heavy chance to dodge. He attacks twice, so he's recovering 140 with each hit, with each strike. And potentially he's doing those attacks like very quickly. That said, he does have some weaknesses, like high cost is an issue. The not being able to be healed by other units can be a bit difficult at first. He has that single block, which means like it's very difficult for him to hold a line, since it's very easy for enemies to leak through. Definitely an interesting unit, definitely worth leveling if you get him. But ultimately, I would say that there are other and easier sort of like 1v1 guards that you can work with. And for that reason, I kind of don't really recommend grabbing, like rolling specifically for Helger. That said, if you do get him, and I do have him, as mentioned before, he is definitely worth investing. And once you get him to Elite 2, he definitely can become a powerhouse unit capable of pretty much 1v1ing most things. So if you've been kind of paying attention, you'll notice that I don't really recommend rolling for this banner. While there are no units that I would say are like objectively bad, I would say that, like, you know, 4 of these units, with the exception of Platinum, don't really fall into an archetype that is like absolutely necessary, or there are just better lower cost alternatives. So in like the case of Shining, you obviously do need a healer for your team, but just like there are 5-star units like Silence is the 5-star unit, and Warfarin, I believe I'm probably mispronouncing that, are also 5-star healers that are single targets that, you know, have just more general utility than what Shining provides. And so I wouldn't really recommend rolling for her. So yeah, I mean, aside of Platinum, I don't really think that there's really many members here that I would consider like core or staples as part of your squad, or would become core / staples as part of your squad. Platinum's kind of only there mainly due to her class and archetype, and even then there are alternatives to her. There are 2 other 5-star snipers. So unless you're in absolutely dire need of a sniper, an anti-aerial sniper, or you just like, you know, want to mess around and like take some specialized units, or, you know, you have a thing for any of these particular units, I would say that this is a banner definitely that you should just get your guaranteed 5-star and then pass on the rest.